Welcome back, everyone, to another Life After LADD214. Today, I have with me a super special guest, one of the main reasons why I started this channel, Dr. Chaunte Hall. How are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm truly thankful to be here and humbled that you'd have me and to hear partly why you started this podcast. So thank you.
Yeah, not a problem. And, as we were talking just before we went on air, is that one of the biggest reasons why I actually started doing this was because of the work that you've been doing. I've only been following you since we met in 2019, and we're going to get into this a little bit later. But you've been doing transition help and really help for all veterans for a very long time. Like I said, we're going to get into that. But first, I want to jump back and talk to you about when and why you first decided to join the Air Force.
See, that's another one. I feel everybody knows that. My dad, my dad made me. He was my recruiter, and he made goal that month. Yeah. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
No.
No, this
Yeah.
is the first time I've heard this story.
Okay. Well, so I grew up in a military family, very, very strong. Everyone served, and my mom and dad both served met at Lackland Air Force Base. The story that it's not supposed to work out, but now you look over 40 years and they're still crazy in love, and just a beautiful example of service and having that servant heart and continuing to serve our communities. So they really laid the foundation, but my grandparents, aunts, uncles, and then again, both my brothers and I, we joined the military. For me, my father became a recruiter in the middle of nowhere. And I grew up, he was special forces, command and control. Mom got out early on as law enforcement to be the military spouse. And I know that was a challenge at times for her because she understood wearing the uniform and then kind of giving it up. And so all these experiences really led to my decision. And I remember going from living in Japan, this incredible life, to middle of nowhere, Ohio, and witnessing for the first time things like yards not being mowed, no uniformity, um, prejudice, just the injustices, the racial disparities amongst the schools and the way individuals were treated, kids being picked on for what clothes they wore, things that I hadn't experienced within the DoD system of going to school in another country. And for me, it was eye opening, and I hated it. So I worked really hard, and I graduated high school early. I graduated in December of 99, and I made the decision to join the Air Force immediately on my graduation. And I actually graduated basic military training before my high school class graduated high school.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were already off being an adult before people were even graduating high school.
We could say airmanish adulting, right?
Airmanish adulting. Sure.
Airmanish adulting. Um, but yeah, it really it just again there was so much that it went into why I wanted to serve my country, and I knew I was smart. I knew I wanted to go to school. I knew I was going to finish my college degree. I didn't know where I would be today, but I knew that those were the goals when I joined the military. And my family, again, I was raised with service being at the core of who you are. And so even at a young 17, to go to college, well, what am I going to get a degree in? What is my job going to be? What career path am I going to choose? And what I love about the military structure is that we take an ASVAB test, and the outcome of that test assigns you certain roles or jobs that you could be successful in. I think it's an incredible system. I wish our schools used that system. I wish our colleges and universities would look at these are the career pathways that you would be most successful in versus someone going and spending so much money and never accomplishing a goal, right? The military, we don't do that. For the most part, you join, you get your career path, and we're successful at it. And I
Hmm.
think that is just an absolute incredible thing. And that was part of the reason too why I knew I wanted to join. And at the time I went logistics, and my father told me, you'll have your degree in 4 years. All my supply buddies had their degrees. This is what you do. He wasn't lying. I got to my first base. I got the backpack, it's the year 2000, had my Abercrombie jeans, and I enrolled in my local college in California. And again, so many life lessons there, but I knew that I was going to accomplish something. I always had those goals in front of me, and I was proud to wear the uniform. I was also proud and incredibly excited to start a degree program that was paid for because of my military service.
Absolutely. So I want to get things straight. You joined the Air Force in 99, and then you basically walked right into a college campus a year later in 2000.
Yeah, yeah, I was very fortunate. I don't like the word no.
I've noticed that with you.
I don't want to be told what to do. And I'll never
Noticed that too.
forget my first base, my supervisor sitting me down and telling me, you have to finish your career development courses before you can start college. And I said, well, that's not going to happen. I'm going to start college. And if I mess up on my career development courses, CDCs, then you can tell me I have to get out of college. But you're not going to tell me what I can do on my off time if I'm succeeding. And he kind of laughed at me and he said, you know what? Go for it. And again, I had a plan. And I was, witnessing even my father being a recruiter, I was so Air Force blue. I was so excited to be this young airman that I launched all these programs at my first base and helping our recruiters recruit more, uh, bringing them onto the military installation. I always told them, if you need a dorm to show, these young potential recruits, feel free. Things that I witnessed my father go through of how other airmen had treated him when he was in recruiting. And again, I love those life lessons because if you pay attention to them, you can do something to change the world in a positive, be that positive example, that positive light, and help change trajectory and career paths for so many.
Yeah, absolutely. Just from myself following what you've been doing with your career and even what you post on social media, you definitely still hold on to that to this day. Like you just ran a race and you uh, took first in your age group. Is that what it was?
I, I sure did.
Yeah, and like I think, and like your quote, I believe was just like you never stop trying to lead from the front, and also one of the things that I personally enjoy is that you are setting an example for your children, and that being a father myself, I feel very connected to when a parent sets the example for their children.
Yeah, it's so important, and there are things that sadly I think this generation has forgotten, or if it was a lack of parenting for them, whatever the case may be, it's disheartening because we have one life to live. And no matter what religion we believe, if you're going to come back as another animal or something, that's awesome. But you have one life to live. And what you leave behind, that legacy, starts the day that you're born. It's not I'm going to do this one day or I'm going to leave this. No, people are watching and witnessing. And the power of social media is an incredible tool if used as such. And I've always shared with people, if you look at my social media 20 years ago, you're going to see the exact same person. Who I am on social is who I am in person. You're going to see faith, family, fitness, good
There you
food,
go.
right? But that's my life. It's consistency, and I believe that's something that a lot of people, they're so busy watching and they're not living.
Absolutely.
And so whether I'm leading from the front, winning a race first, or taking steps back because my children say, "Mommy, I want to run," and I know I'm not going to win that race, and it takes me a minute because I go, "Ooh, you want to run?" But to show them that I believe in them and to encourage them, that's a whole nother lesson in and of itself. But both matter, and we have to know when to lead from the front and when to lead from the back.
Absolutely. And so let's just jump back a little bit. How long were you in the Air Force?
So I was active duty for almost 10 years, and then a reservist. I immediately the day one my service ended active, the next day I was a reservist.
Nice. And then, but you're completely out now.
Yes.
Got it. Cool. Congratulations.
That was 2017, 2016.
Okay. So just about a year after I had officially gotten out myself.
I'm lying. 2014.
Okay.
2014.
All right. Then you're a year before me then.
Yeah, it was 2014, completely out because we moved to Houston. Life happens
Gotcha.
fast.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, man. Just thinking about 2014, and it really feels like it was not too long ago. It doesn't feel like it was 9, 10, 11 years ago.
yeah, no.
And so after you got out, what was your plan once you decided to leave?
My story, and I've shared it on other platforms before, but I got out of the military in 2009. I had deployed with the Army in 2007, and I didn't join the Army, remember? I joined the Air Force. Yeah. So when I realized they were going to start deploying troops with the Army, that was my call to say, I don't want to do this anymore.
Thanks, but
Uh,
no thanks.
Thanks, but no thanks. I'm Air Force. A lot of things happened during my journey, and if you go back to education, for me it was always about lifelong learning and encouraging and empowering others. So no matter what hat I've ever worn, I'm true to that job, to that love, that support, that connection, the community engagement. I live and breathe. That's who I am. It's who I believe I was called to be. And so when I made the choice to get out, I did not have my degree. And my school story is a story in and of itself. But you think about when September 11th happened and it drastically changed our entire military. And we were not allowed off base for the first 2 weeks after September 11th. And I was the first child of my parents to join. I'm the oldest.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a wake up call for all of us. And so you can imagine your father being your recruiter, go into this career field, and not that we all know something could happen, but none of us imagined it would be that drastic. And 9/11 changed our family so much. Even my father in recruiting, to look at my brothers and truly ask them, this is your choice. He never wanted us to feel pushed, and he called me, I hope you didn't feel the pressure. And I did not. I still felt I wanted to serve. And when we look at what happened with September 11th and being prepared to pivot the way that we did, there were so many changes. And the Department of Defense, the Department of Education, the Department of Labor, we weren't ready on so many different levels for the impact that it would have. And so for me as a young airman living in the dorms in California, we had individuals that were, protesting against the military and
Mm-hmm.
what we were doing in Iraq and Afghanistan. Immediately, overnight, here we are at this base that has no gates, and we had to have the rent-a-cops. And so a lot of people in the dorms ended up having to serve. And remember, I'm enrolled in college off base at a community college. And so finally, after a few weeks, I go back to school, and I had kept up with all my work and I had everything with me. And I go to turn it in, and I was turned away. No, that's late, doesn't count. And I take my grades and my work very seriously. And part of my time growing up, I even homeschooled. And so I knew how to make sure I was still learning. And I argued and fought, right? I'm being told no.
Right.
Couldn't believe it. I'm like, are you not seeing the news? Do you not see what's happened? And long story short, like a true, strong 19-year-old young lady, I stormed out of there and took W's in the classes, called home, said, Mom and Dad, I might need some money to pay for these courses. But I was not going to be bullied. I couldn't believe that the thought process was such that we are not going to support our military community.
Right.
Now, and I share that because we have come so far with the Department of Education and ensuring that we are taken care of through institutions like the College Council Military Educators, CCME. There are laws and actions now that have been taken in place and taken into account to make sure that our education is taken care of, which I'm very thankful for. So I paused on education, and then video stuff started coming out. Oh, you can take videos and you can self-teach, which I miserably failed at. And trying to teach yourself algebra, college algebra in Iraq is not very easy.
Fair.
And so I failed a lot. And, and, and I'll backtrack. I don't like that word fail. And I've said this before because failure means that you've ultimately given up and you've lost. I fell. I fell. And I picked myself back up, and then I tried the new platform, the Digital Angel platform through University of Phoenix. I fell. I tried another community college. But again, witnessing each time us grow in academia and the ability to learn. I witnessed individuals say that you're not as intelligent if you go online versus going to the institution. And I'm 43. And so witnessing how far we've come again in academia is astounding. And then I think a lot of people were humbled during the pandemic because they realized, wow, this online education isn't so bad after all. Sad that we have to go through those things to learn, but such incredible testimony when we keep getting up and trying each new thing that comes along its way. And I think that has allowed me, I'll say this, to, through all of our phones, through all of our changes, to grow with the updates and with the, I don't want to be that person that's going, oh, I got another update. I don't want to do that. I want to make sure that I'm willing to embrace technology and the advancements that we're getting globally.
Absolutely. And in my world, in the tech world that I live and breathe in, if you are stagnant, if you're not willing to ride that wave, you are going to be left behind and you're going to be drowned. What I really enjoyed about this previous story was that, one, obviously you didn't quit, right? You knew that you had to keep pushing forward, but you also tried different avenues, right? One way didn't work. Okay, maybe that's not my way of learning. So try something different. Okay, that didn't work either. Okay, so let's try this other thing. And a lot of people would have just maybe tried one or two or more other times and then just been done with it if they couldn't get it.
Yeah.
So I think it's really admirable that you kept going because you knew what the end goal was: get the education that you wanted.
And here's the thing is I didn't know what I wanted my education in at the time, right? But I knew my career path was this, and these were the courses that helped my career path. I always advise individuals to look at that career path, look at where you are, and make sure you're as educated as you can be with where you are today. If you're doing everything today that you can be to be successful, tomorrow's going to take care of it itself. And so when it came time for me to transition, I didn't have the degree, but I had San Diego State personal training certification. I had several other personal training, yoga, all, Pilates, cycling, spinning classes, and my goal was to get out and at first simply be a trainer, learn more, be in the field. And I always worked part-time even while in the Air Force. I would do part-time training and teaching classes. Fun fact, I became a yoga instructor at Camp Virginia in Kuwait.
Nice.
And then Camp Arif John picked me up, and I remember having hundreds of Army guys in a room sweating and playing some Linkin Park and making them hold warrior pose for a long time.
That's awesome.
It was super awesome. Yeah.
What year was that, I wonder?
That was 06 and 07. 04 I started, and then I was deployed again in 06 and 07.
Wasn't me. I wasn't there. I wasn't the one doing all those yoga poses. So
no, I have dear friends that to this day that I'm still close with that are always just, you're the same person. They see me and they're like, you haven't changed much. Titles change, but again, it's if you truly know who you are to the core. And I think that's how I was brought up, is even in the tough times, those transitional periods, you choose how you want to act and how you want to react.
Yeah.
And the mind's a powerful thing. And the things that no one on this planet can take from you. They can't take away your level of education, your ability to learn, and most importantly, your faith. And I think that's why no matter what trials and tribulations I faced, I was always ready. And I tell my children this. My children always ask me, there's a lot of bad things going on in the world, right? And they see the news and they hear it, and there's a level of fear at times with them. And we're a Christian home, and I raised my kids with, God has not given us a spirit of fear. But the best example I can give is, I think back when I've joined the military, had I had known we were a nation at war, I don't, I honestly don't know. I am the only girl in my family, right? Besides now my daughter and uh, my nieces. But I'm my parents' warrior princess, right? You'll
Right.
see my dad even say it on LinkedIn. And so for me, I can't answer that. But what I tell my children is, even when September 11th happened, I wasn't scared. People started protesting the gate. I wasn't scared. Now, had I thought about that, or known, sure, I'm sure I would have been scared. My deployment, first deployment to Iraq, I didn't feel this feeling of fear because it happens so fast, right? You think about our military and we're just constant. So you don't even have time to think,
Yeah.
which I also think is a good thing because we're always in this constant state of preparedness. We're always moving. We want to stay physically fit. We want to stay positive. We want to stay educated. You look at our military and no matter which branch, even the Army, they make sure that you're educated in your role or you wouldn't be in that position.
That is true.
They make sure you're physically fit. They make sure your TPs are all cleaned. No other institution cares about those things.
Yeah, that's true. Any other civilian organization just gives you medical, dental, insurance and
To
says,
pay
"Oh,
for.
yeah, to pay for," and then it's up to you to make those appointments. Whereas the military, you out of the blue, they'll come up and say, "Hey, by the way, you've got a dental appointment."
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. You're reminded. I mean, you're even reminded. It's like we got personal assistants.
Yeah, that's true.
See?
So you left active duty and went straight to the reserve component. But my question is as you were leaving active duty, what was the transition process like? Because I feel like it's completely different than it is right now.
Yes. So I have two very different military transition stories. And so for me, I went through a lot during that time. I would say that time of going from active duty to reserves was definitely a hardship. And I was very blessed while I was in the military. When I left California, I was stationed at Vandenberg Air Force Base, now Vandenberg Space Force. I went to Georgia where my dad just happened. He was being stationed as a recruiter in Georgia. And so I always say we lived in the middle, which meant I had a 20-minute drive and dad had a 40-minute drive. Same, same. But we were able to live together. And so we had a beautiful place in Georgia. My last deployment in 2006, he was retiring. And oh, by the way, we're retiring in New Braunfels, Texas. And they were having a house being built. And I was going to be okay. I was pumped. I was in charge of education and training. And then I get the call, you're leaving tomorrow with the Army to go to Iraq. We did training for a month at Fort Carson, Colorado in the snow to then go to the desert because the Army makes sense like that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yes. And I was very angry at the time with this deployment because my father was retiring and both my brothers, by the way, were also deployed. And so there's all of us deployed and we're all going to miss my father's retirement. So all this anger set in and I swore I would never attend another retirement ceremony again. I'd never do, and now you look at today what I do and it's very comical. Um, but again, the life lessons and that deployment helped me in a lot of ways. But when I got back, my parents had moved. And like any incredible, amazing military spouse, my mother had all my stuff itemized, lined up in a storage for me, jeans bin, shirts bin, perfect. But I didn't know where to go. And then day one of us coming in, we're out processing. My unit says, oh, by the way, we're shutting down in a year. And here are your follow on assignments. We were a combat logistics support squadron being shut down. I got orders back to California, and I could turn them down and get out that next year, or I did not want to go back to California. And so I ended up moving in with a dear friend, but for me, I'd still lost a lot of family. And you don't realize when you get back. I went back to my local church, and church wasn't the same. No one asked me at the time, how are you doing? Are you okay? It was the college group I was a part of at church. The girls are going shopping and getting their nails done and concerned about all these things. And that wasn't me. And so I really had to take a step back and assess who I was going to be and what this new life looked like after witnessing the things that I witnessed. And it was a challenge. Again, and on paper, when you leave, you get the questionnaire of how are you doing, and you're fine, you're fine, you're fine. Like, you just want to go home. Um, and so unfortunately that led to some negative things that I went through, right? You're prescribed Ambien to sleep. You're prescribed something else. And I realized, again, hand of God, through trial and error, okay, can't take that. Don't want to become that. I'm losing myself. I'm having nightmares. It's still not helping me sleep. And I course corrected. And of course they started sharing with my family. Um, and that helped because I had a family support structure that understood. And I was personal training at a gym, at a Gold's Gym outside of Warner Robins. And I got the call because I was in the reserves, but I was waiting for a training date. And I wasn't supposed to have a training date for almost a year. And now this is September, I'd gotten out.
Mm-hmm.
They called me in October and said by December 2nd, can you report to training in Texas? And again, those little reminders that I get goosebumps still to this day, hand of God going, you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
And because I missed, obviously, here I am. It's 1 weekend a month, but I'm not trained to do anything yet as a combat medic. And I missed that part. I missed that component. So that was my first transition from active, to reserves. And then I was, for the next, almost 2 years, I was full-time reservist.
Okay.
During training. And then I got to San Antonio where I was stationed, and I opened my own gym. So I always wanted to have my own gym. But I was working at SAMC and as a reservist and doing different training there. And, still, again, missing active duty. And I'm glad that I had that reserve part because I realized so many reservists and guard, like if I could tell these babies anything, I would say, go active duty. Because a lot of them regret it because they realize the benefits aren't the same. And so for me, I learned so much in that time where it didn't matter what rank, people were coming to drill to make this little bit of money that would help carry them for the rest of the month, and they were struggling. And so it just really started to eat at me, and I don't deal well in negative environments. I mean, I know a lot of us don't. I really don't. And I didn't like the feeling. I didn't like the uncomfortable. I didn't like not having a response or an action for them. And I would look at different nonprofit things that were happening throughout the city, and I started volunteering. And I always say this, once you start only seeing you in the mirror and you stop seeing anyone else, you fail. You fail. That's a failure. Because if you can't look in the eyes of a child or another human and say, no, I want to help you and lift you up, then you've failed. You're selfish. You're lost in your own museum of whatever that is. And we cannot afford to go there. Our communities need us, and you see that. We're not short on need. And there's so much volunteer work that you can do. And I'm not kidding. Because of my volunteer and getting out there, it has landed me every single role I've ever had.
Wow. That's a very telling story, because a lot of people don't take that opportunity. They get out of the military and they're just like, I need to find a job. I need to find something that's going to pay me. And you took an opportunity where you volunteered. You saw an issue. You wanted to find a way to that solution, and you found volunteer work. But then the volunteer work now leads you to this new life that you have cultivated for yourself.
There's so many lessons in that, and a lot of people fail to realize. They look at someone's life through the lens of social media or what have you. And again, you go back to my social media 20 years ago. Someone asked me the other day, they said, why don't you share stories of you failing? And I laughed and I said, because I haven't. I have fallen.
Yep.
I'm divorced. I'm a single mom. It takes two. I'm not without flaw. I'm not without mistake, but I have not failed. I keep getting up. I keep choosing to live. I keep choosing life over anything that negative that could come into play. And I wish more people could see that it doesn't mean it's easy. But again, it's a choice to put in that hard work and to dedicate yourself, because no matter what, I don't want what's on the other side. And I was sharing that with someone the other day. I volunteer for the Warrior Games every year. They're coming to San Antonio in 2026.
Mark your calendars.
I have all, yes, seriously. I have all my limbs,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm completely healthy. There is no reason why I shouldn't be taking care of myself, working out, having that same. You see, the civilian sector, and it's a misnomer. We think, oh, they want us. They want to hire us. We're entitled. We're owed something. You raised your right hand to serve, to defend, and to protect. You made that choice. Why are you going to go out there now and tell the civilian sector they owe you? I mean, let that sink in. What, they didn't raise their right hand. They don't owe us anything. More so, our servant leadership heart should be out there in the community, should be giving back, should be contributing, should be serving, should have the nice haircuts, right? Like taking care, well manicured. Be who you were when you raised your right hand. Don't let that person go. You know, I believe this. I believe this to my core. Like, I'm sorry, get up and keep going. Because, you know, here's the thing too. You look at our police officers, you look at our firefighters, you look at the mother who lost a child, right?
Mm-hmm.
You look at divorce, broken homes. People are hurting. Everyone's gone through something. We've witnessed war. We have witnessed devastation. But let's not negate the fact that other people have witnessed, again, within their realm, within their life, their choices, and their hardships are just as impactful to them as ours are to us. And so no one owes us anything. We have to stop that entitlement behavior and not be disgruntled years later because we at one time made a choice to serve our great nation.
Exactly.
It doesn't mean it's easy. It's not easy. But I'll tell you, I work with college kids and civilians that, you know, you look at the pandemic, over 100 pilots I trained, United Airline pilots during the pandemic, that were furloughed.
Mm-hmm.
What is a pilot going to do when a pilot's no longer a pilot? When these big companies shut down and you're a bigwig at GE and they're like, you're gone. There's only so many positions that pay whatever it is they're used to. So transition, you know, when you look at it, is difficult for anyone. And so we have to get out of our own mindset sometimes. I laugh because we blame the military on our lack of financial readiness. Now, let that sink in. From the day I joined, there were classes that were offered to me on financial literacy. Day one, it was our choice to go or not go. I invested in the military star card, and Abercrombie gave me a credit card, Express gave me a credit card, Macy's gave me a credit card, right? Like, I thought, and then they increased your limits every year, and I think that's a gift from God. Now, but those were my choices. And do you think any civilian employer, and think about your civilian employers, have they ever sat you down and said, okay, this is what you're going to be making. Let's talk about your.
Nope, not at all.
No,
Not at
no.
all.
And so we get out, you think about life after the LADD214, and we have the audacity to cast blame. We have incredible programs for our wounded warriors.
Mm-hmm.
We have soldier recovery units where individuals are in these programs. There's no other civilian institution. Google's not going to come and say, oh, you're sick. Let me help you. That doesn't happen. And so we really have to take a step back sometimes and say, where did this sense of entitlement come from where we feel we are owed?
Yeah.
No, we have to change the mindset and say, do I have the level of education that's needed for this job? Who do I know that I can connect with to actually ask for help? Who out there already has a resume done? See, we don't have to do anything alone. And especially in today's day and age, we have Google at our fingertips. We have ChatGPT.
We have the entire world's information at our fingertips.
There's no excuses. Now, again, job changes and transitions, they are not easy. And I've gone through several. As a single mom, it scares me. So when people say, why do you wear so many hats? I am always going to be ready to flex and to take on whichever role I need to. Again, this life wasn't promised to be easy. And so when you start looking at it like that, it's a mindset. And that's always my message to our transitioning military is you have to change your mindset when you're going out there, and not one of entitlement and that you're owed, but of continued service.
Absolutely. Speaking of continued service, I want to jump into what you're doing now. I want to jump into your nonprofit, your work with the veteran community.
Yeah, so 2011, my father and I, and it's the joke, and a lot of people have heard, I worked for multiple nonprofit organizations. I worked for the YMCA, and we did a lot of work with our wounded warriors. But there was still missing gaps in terms of what were the measurable outcomes in helping our military community. And what I mean by that is it's easy to have these peer-to-peer groups and to hold hands and to complain to one another and to gripe or to have a free beer or have a free meal. What's the outcome of that? And so I told my father, I said, we need to do something. And I was meeting veterans under bridges, just regardless of rank, witnessing people just completely fail after leaving the military. And I genuinely, in my heart, I did not understand. How do you go from being so strong, loud, commanding a room to disheveled, to losing your identity? Where have you placed your identity? And so coming from a family of service and my family understanding, I always had someone to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
So long story short, my father and I, he was finishing his doctorate at the time, and we launched Centurian Military Alliance, CMA. And it is a transitioning program. We wanted to get further upstream, which we have. I'm very thankful for the installations that we're on today. Before the pandemic, global outreach, shut it down a little bit, became a single mom, had to rein it in. So our shift has focused a little bit more to Texas,
Mm-hmm.
but we go when we're called upon to other installations. And what we teach is we co-authored a multidisciplinary curriculum that focuses on educational attainment, financial literacy, and vocational proficiency. So if you imagine three rings, right? Education, finance, and vocation, where those three rings intersect, there's no perfection, right? There's no perfect center. But where those pillars intersect is what's called positionality. And what we teach is we want you to have a level of awareness at all times. Does your level of education speak to your vocation? Will your vocation allow you to be financially okay? And then we obviously dig deeper into those things. But we have an assessment that each service member or their families, even their children, will fill out. University of the Incarnate Word digitized this assessment during the pandemic. And we've even found it's incredible for our college students, for our college counselors to use. Because oftentimes what we find is someone will come in, whether it's the Texas Veterans Commission, whether it's any workforce, wherever it is that you live in the world, and you walk into a workforce center, you walk in to talk to a college career counselor, or let's take our high school students, a high school counselor. They
Yeah.
only know what they only know what they know. And we all have a bias. And my doctoral research is all on this. We all have this level of bias that can limit our capability to deliver or to help traject the path forward for someone else, because in our own minds we think, oh, well, he's good at math, so have you considered this? And you leave this individual no other option, again, because of your own bias. Even here in San Antonio, our teachers, some of them they won't promote the military. Blows my mind, but they won't promote the military. That's a career option. It's a great option. So when you leave the military installation overnight, regardless of rank, and I always quote my favorite general, Major General Bob Labruta, who went from 2 stripes to 2 stars. He says to 2 stripes again, because when you leave that installation overnight, your education no longer speaks to your employment, your vocation. And how are you going to be financially okay? And we can look at each other within our own bias within the military construct and go, well, you're a colonel transitioning, you'll be just fine. You're a general. How do you know what someone makes in their house? How do you know who they're taking care of? Who do you know? You have no idea how many baby mamas they have, right?
I'm sorry to interrupt. I love that moment right there. That was perfect because I have seen so many times, even in my personal transition from army to the civilian world, was you're a captain,
You'll be
you're going to
fine.
be fine, right? Like I was not fine. I was not fine at all. Like one of the biggest reasons why you and I actually met was because I wasn't fine with my
I
transition.
remember. I
And
remember.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so it's very interesting. Even I've been through so many different veteran transition classes and whatnot, right? And I have seen I've seen them all, from the E4 specialist, even the E1s and E2s who are getting out, all the way to O6s and O7s and above. We're all in the same class. And the attitudes at the beginning are usually night and day, right? The attitude of the higher ranking people are like, I'm going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. By about day 3, everybody is realizing it's not going to be as easy as they thought. So,
Well, and the thing is, and you've seen it, you might get out and have an incredible role one day, and then tomorrow it's gone. And that is why it is so important to stay relevant, to volunteer, be a lifelong learner. Again, our military taught us these things when we're voluntold. And that's why I love the business concept of what our military does for us, because it is a pathway to success should we choose that path. When we get out and we stop working out and we stop taking care of ourselves and we stop, the grooming, the hygiene, all that, those things matter. And how you look is how you feel. Those are just truths. And then who you know. In this world, it is very, very much on who you know, on who your connections are. And at the end of the day, it comes down to how you treat someone. They know if you're authentic or not. And if you have to tell me, no, I'm not lying. Well, then why are you saying you're not lying? You're definitely lying,
yeah, for
right?
sure.
Oh, I'm going to tell you the truth. Were you considering lying to me? And so I always, these 2 words really, really always rub me the wrong way. These 2 words, passion and purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And you brought this up earlier when we were talking about finding your purpose after. And this is my message to everyone. You have to know who you are. You have to know what you stand for. If not, you're going to fall. You're going to look at everyone else and what they're doing, maybe never think you're enough, maybe have too big of a head, but you need to know and be grounded and understand you have too big of a head.
No, that was me
Just
completely.
kidding. You've got to know who you are. And once you know that,
Hmm.
I know I am a woman of faith. I love my family. And so I'm going to do in the community whatever it is that helps families. So,
Hmm.
big brother, big sister. I come from an incredible family, but I'm a single mom. I am my children's only parent. And if it weren't for my dad and my brothers, they wouldn't have that strong male role model. So I love the mission of Big Brothers, Big Sisters. I love the San Antonio Food Bank and everything that they stand for. I'm on the turkey trot committee because I run the turkey trot every year. I help our greater chamber. I want to see local businesses thrive. I want to see people understand what they stand for, who they are, and to continue making a trajectory, a pathway for other people. And that's the core of all of us. So I know when I get up, there are days I don't want to work out. Of course there are. There's days I'd rather sit on the couch and maybe binge watch something, but I don't do those things because again, I know what the outcome can be and I know I've got too much at stake and I'm living life. When someone says they work too hard or you're busy, or those are negative words. So when someone walks into a room and they say, "What's your purpose?" What if you're asking someone who truly feels that they have no purpose now? I don't like that question. See, instead, I'm going to remind you your purpose is you're a living, breathing human. Your passion needs to be breathing. And guess what? Every single day is going to change. We cannot predict what the future holds. But we need to be present in the moment. We need to know our positionality, who we are at all times. And that's why our curriculum is on a foundation of holistic health, well being, and resiliency.
I
Because
love
if
it.
you know who you are, why do people fall short? And my research gets deep and talks about the negative um, issues that can rise up, whether it's drug and alcohol abuse, suicide. Again, why do these things happen? And my research shows because of that trajectory, when they get out, either they lost that sense of purpose due to they couldn't get a job. They weren't out there volunteering and giving back. They got divorced. Their families left them. Their children didn't know. And now you think about our society and where we are. And I'd argue with anyone till they're blue in the face. That was a lack. They obviously didn't have the level of education or couldn't articulate it, or they didn't have an elevator pitch. They didn't have a LinkedIn account. They didn't have a resume. They didn't know. They didn't ask for help. And now financially, their world is rocked and they're struggling. And then they start working on, and I love our VA. I believe in being a part of the VA. Get your rating, don't become your rating.
There we go.
They end up becoming their rating. And that it frustrates me when individuals say, "Oh, we can help you get a higher rating, or we can help you get this, or we can help you." By the time someone's in an office needing that, it's because financially there's a scare there. And now financially they feel that they need to do something or they're owed or entitled more money. And in doing so, you end up becoming your rating. And guess who's watching that? The friends, the family, the children that are around you. And then we wonder why we have a recruitment problem. It's
Fascinating.
devastating.
Well, agreed, but it's interesting to me in my brain how it all correlates to each other. So
It
that's
does. I was talking to a young kid the other day that said, I'm good to go. I'm getting out. And this was in a room of almost 1,000 people at Fort Bliss. He's like, I'm good to go. I'm getting out. I've got a job. I'm going to do this. I said, really? Where? Oh, back home. Back home. The place you left. Well, yes, ma'am. Why are you going back there? Well, my family's there. You sure you want to go back? Why'd you leave in the first place? Family and friends. You think they've changed? Who's giving you the job? A friend is giving me the job. Did you interview? Did you sign something yet? What's the salary? I tell our government contracting companies all the time, don't you dare poach our babies, right? Don't you poach
right.
our military because you might be able to pay them more. Think about our cyber and tech folks, right? You can pay them more on the outside, but for how long? Until something changes, until your company falls, until there's so many different avenues there that again, the military, it it's a good career path. There were probably times you wanted to stay, right? Or
Oh
you
yeah.
wish you would have. Still, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I got out 5 years left till retirement. But for me, my babies. It was my babies. And there were times where, I regretted it. I was sad about it, but I believe the hand of God had, knew my path. And I've always been okay because I keep working at it every single day and making sure I'm out there.
Absolutely. Absolutely believe that 100%. Um, so out of curiosity, who can take these transition classes? Is it just
Yeah.
people leaving the military, or is it veterans who've already been out?
Mhm. Yeah, so Centurion Military Alliance, so we right now have quarterly workshops in San Antonio, at Fort Hood, and in El Paso, it's once a year. We also offer, again, different various installations and locations where sometimes the businesses just want us to come. So we've hosted a few in Florida, Colorado, Virginia, DC, but anyone can come. So Centurion Military Alliance has always been for the veterans, the transitioning military, the families, the spouses, even the children. And some people will ask me, well, what's transitioning military? If you've joined the military, you're transitioning from the military. And we want you to come. So this year at Fort Bliss, we had something really cool. We ended up actually having some individuals that they were able to retain because they realized they weren't ready. And that's the goal of CMA. I always share with people the military is a business too. So we're not just helping you go get hired at Amazon. We want to help you with all of these different companies and institutions to make sure that you're prepared. And so I focus a lot, I call it the 3 R's: recruitment, retention, and reintegration. It's not transition, it's reintegration. We have to try to reintegrate into a culture. We are coming from a dominant culture, and the civilian culture is a dominant culture. And it is a choice for us to reintegrate into the culture and acknowledge and understand, again, our own bias and our calling to serve. We're less than 1%. We're not going to change the civilian culture.
Right.
We have to become a part of it and help and continue serving. And I think in doing so, when you change the verbiage, it makes transition different. You can become so successful because, again, it's the mindset and the choice. That doesn't mean that it's easy. One of my closest friends in the entire world right now has had the highest level of positions you can imagine. From being presidentially appointed to now out of a job again, and it's been a couple months. And I witnessed the frustration because it takes time. But they're not going to fall. They keep working, they keep applying, they keep going. But again, it's not easy. But you just have to keep going.
Yeah. And I have lived it, you have lived it, and it's just one of those things where every story counts because and you mentioned this, like your research, your doctoral research is really on the veteran and reintegration into
Yeah.
society or into the civilian world. And um, I told you before that the whole reason why I started this was because I don't have the answer for the individual person. But what I can do is I can gather up a lot of different stories of how people got through the challenges of leaving the military and
Right.
reintegrating. And maybe, just maybe, hopefully, somewhere, someday, someone is going to watch a video that we create and says, oh, that's exactly what happened with me. Maybe I can go this way. And I love the fact that I accidentally stumbled upon your research doing this.
That's awesome.
I want to talk about, in the little bit of time we have left, I want to be respectful of your time. I want to let you have the floor for your book.
Yeah. So I wrote a book. People will say, when did you find the time? The book, so the title of the book is Stoically Optimistic Females Triumph. And I'm already on book number 2, which will be open for everyone, and we'll talk about that
Oh
on
man.
another podcast.
Yeah, yeah.
But this book launches in the fall, and I'm very grateful for a lot of the support that I've gotten. The title itself actually comes from my father, who was part of the SOF community. So I love my special forces. And one night he just said, my warrior princess, you don't ever stop everything you've been through, all the trials, all the hurt. I hear men constantly say things to me like, well, you're a strong woman, you don't need support, or you don't need this, or you're all these assumptions.
Yeah.
When at the end of the day, I'm still a girl at heart. And I'm very feminine, and I've always embraced that. And I never wanted to become the world thrives on this hardness factor, right? That we've got to be this certain way, and we don't. A hug, a hug can change the world. And so my book, Stoically Optimistic Females Triumph, is about stoically being optimistic, especially coming from a male dominated workforce. And remembering that my softness is my strength and it's not a weakness. And the endorsements that I've gotten from some incredibly strong men, um, like Chef Robert Irvine or SEAC 4 CZ, a dear family friend, the first SEAC, Joe Gainey, Major General Bob LaGruta, first female Chief Master Sergeant in the Air Force, Joanne Bass, uh, 4-star General Paul Funk. Incredible support.
Senior or junior?
They're both amazing, aren't they? They're just incredible family. And then a 24-time best-selling author, John Gordon, who really steered my path and supported me becoming an author. And I'll never forget years ago, he said, if you ever write a book, call me. And after my father had sent me this title one night, I started writing and I remembered his words. And so I called him, which isn't easy for me because I don't like to ask for help. And what blew my mind is he answered immediately and he said, "You're ready." And so the support, the outpouring of the community, and then my wing sister, retired Command Chief Master Sergeant Casey Boomershine, wrote my foreword. And again, to hear the love and the outpouring of what this is going to bring to our community, um, and then even being a part of the city of San Antonio and being able to help and contribute. And I'm honored to share that the former mayor, Ron Nuremberg, endorsed my book. And so to see from this global community to our local city and what we can do together and maintaining our soft presence, and seeing how men reacted to my message has been incredible. So I'm very excited. It's a fall launch date. So end of September, October, it'll be coming out.
Awesome. I can't wait. It'll be a good birthday present for me. My birthday is the end of September.
I'll sign it.
Oh, that would be fantastic. Okay, so let's wrap up with the last 2 questions. Now, the first one is kind of serious, but it also has everything to do with what you do right now. And in one soundbite, give me one piece of advice that you would give anyone who is getting ready to leave the military or has left the military and is about to take those rose tinted glasses off. And you know what I'm talking about.
My advice to anyone facing transition, embarking on a new journey, is to truly take the time, invest in yourself, and understand who you are. If you don't know who you are, if you cannot share, if you cannot articulate to another person who you are, what your value is, what your level of education is, what is so important to you, who your family is, what your goals are, what your habits are, what your your extracurricular activities, if you love golfing, if you love working out, if you can't say those things, you really need to take time to reflect and understand. Because if you can't tell me who you are, I can't help you.
There you go. And that's definitely not an easy thing to do. I would probably argue that for the first 3 years, maybe longer, I probably couldn't answer that question.
Yeah.
After I got out of the military.
It is a difficult question. But the thing is, again, is we have to invest the time to understand and to be able to articulate who we are. There is no organization on the planet that is going to hold your hand and help you get through life. You have to be grounded and understand who you are. And it's difficult losing a title. So get another title. Know your name. Know your name. If you can't even tell me your name, and that at the end of the day it's heartbreaking, because we are all people. We all have something to offer. You just got to dig a little deep and realize when you walk into a room, it's not going to be made easy for you anymore. You've got to say it.
Absolutely. And so the last question is not as serious. In your entire time in the military, what is one thing that you still do to this day that you just can't get rid of?
I'm like so many things because I'm crazy. I'm so crazy. I make my bed every single day.
Oh my gosh, you are one of those people, huh?
I am one of those people. First thing I do, I make my bed. I think it is so important.
Do you
When you pull the covers down at night and you get in, it just feels different.
do you still do all the hospital corners as well?
No,
Oh, okay.
no. But it's still beautiful. Like, I make my bed every single day. I take pride in it. And I think that's part of it, is taking pride, taking ownership. And that's how I feel with the start of making my bed, to running every day, to doing the things that I do, because you feel better.
Absolutely. Well, Chaunte, thank you so much for joining me this evening. I want to be super respectful of your time. And again, thank you for the chat with me.
You're welcome. It was an honor.
Thank you so much. Everybody, like, share, comment, subscribe, and definitely hit up Centurion Military Alliance if you need any type of assistance. If you already are a veteran and you just really need to refocus your efforts, absolutely look them up online, find a place where they are offering courses, and get in. And with that, later, lads.